What's going on, guys? This is Brian from Advancement Hockey Advising here. Today we have a special treat for you women hockey players out there. We have an interview with the one and only Jaclyn Hawkins. And for those of you who don't know Jaclyn, she played 4 years of NCAA hockey at the University of Connecticut, did very well there. She went on to play pro hockey, then she did some coaching, and she did a bunch of other ventures. Now she's founded Women's Hockey Life. She'll talk to you guys more about it in depth. But honestly, all the things she does, all the success she's had, it really shaped her into an incredible person. And you guys will see how this conversation. I can't wait for you guys to hear her talk, to hear her insights. She has so much valuable knowledge to give that you guys should benefit a ton from. So hopefully, even for you guy hockey players out there, I know you guys will benefit from this conversation because her mindset is just on point, and you guys will see this. So without further ado, let's dive right into the conversation here with Jaclyn. All right, Jaclyn, thanks so much for coming on the show today. Glad to have you. How you doing?
Pretty good. Can't complain. It's got snow on the ground. The outdoor rinks are up and popping, so I'm happy.
Yes, me too. ODRs are amazing. Absolutely. All right, so I guess we can get right into it here. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, your hockey career, your background, and your coaching career as well?
Absolutely. Well, first off, I got to start with I'm a mom. I got 5.5-year-old twins, so that's the number one title right there for you. But I grew up in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada here, and played youth hockey until about 15, I think. And then I left and went to the United States and went to a prep school there. So I went to the Taft School in Watertown, Connecticut. So I did 3 years of school there, played with their hockey team as well as the Connecticut Polar Bears, won a championship with them. That's always fun. Nice. And then I went to the University of Connecticut. So UConn, played there for 4 years, had a great time. Great experience. I mean, it's an unbelievable opportunity if anybody ever gets the chance to do it, to spend 4 more years playing hockey, right? And then I actually coached the very next year at UConn. So I had got 1 year of coaching under my belt there, realized I still loved to play and I missed it so much, right? You're on the ice practicing as a coach now and it's so different. So I took the skates out of the bag, so to speak, and signed a contract to go play in Switzerland. So I did that first season, then came back, started my business, Women's Hockey Life, and then went back to Connecticut. I just can't leave Connecticut, apparently. Moved back to Connecticut and worked in a youth organization as player development for about 2.5, 3 years before returning to UConn again to coach there for about 4 or 5 years. And then I had my twins, so it's kind of one of those, I don't know that I can keep up the coaching lifestyle and raise twins. So I stopped coaching officially then, and then just dove straight into my business and have been doing that ever since.
Awesome. So can you talk to us a bit more about your business? How, what exactly you guys do and how you help out female hockey players out there?
Absolutely. So the business started about 10 years ago as an idea just to selfishly for me to stay involved in the game. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know I'd get into coaching. And it was a way to kind of give back, right? So I have all this experience playing overseas, NCAA, prep schools, played in the CWHL as well for a bit. I didn't mention that. And now what we do, it's multiple things. We have womenshockeylife.com. So it's a website, blogs, articles, you name it, just covering and highlighting the sport, all levels, all over the world. We just put out an article the other day of someone from Australia, right? How she got into the game and stuff like that. So we really try and give a spotlight to those teams, leagues, players that maybe don't necessarily get it in mainstream media. So there's that whole component of it. And then we sell merchandise. So we've got a bunch of gear that we partner with other companies just to, have women feel empowered wearing female hockey specific logos, designs, whatever it may be, fits. And then we have our academy. So that is an 8-week online course where we help high school aged female hockey players navigate the whole college, university recruiting process and have them find a home that's right for them. That's it in a nutshell. Nice. There's a couple other things that we do as well, but really it's just about highlighting, supporting, and promoting the game that we love.
Nice. And that course, is that a course where you guys work together one-on-one with girls or in small groups, or how exactly does the course work?
All of the above. So we do one-on-one calls, we do group calls, email support. We've got a couple different groups they can join. We basically don't leave them alone as soon as they join. There's a million ways to get a hold of us. And that's done by design because we know that support is important. And that's ultimately what's going to get someone recruited faster, is asking the question when you don't know the answer. Yeah. Right. It's not Googling it or asking your neighbor or friend. Everyone's process is so different that my whole team, my whole staff, we've all been recruited student athletes who've played in college, university, and we've also all been collegiate coaches. So we understand how it all works being in their shoes, these female hockey players, right? And also from the coaching side of things, like what are they actually looking for? What do they want? You name it. Nothing gets unanswered.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's so important you touched on, like, not just Googling a question or things like that, actually asking experts that have been through the process, it's so important, because if you just Google it, you might get misinformation, so often you probably will get misinformation when it comes to specific things like this. So,
and that's huge.
Yeah.
You're right. That's a big thing. And there's been a couple of times where we don't have the answer.
Yeah.
And we're not going to just say, oh, it's this, and this. Like, we'll go call college coaches and ask them, like, we want to be reliable. We want to be resourceful. So we're not just going to go Google it ourselves.
Exactly.
That is not what you're supposed to do.
Exactly. Totally agree. So what, like, if a girl, let's say you're a female hockey player, 14, 15 years old, college coaches start looking at you, what's your advice to them? What are the main things they should be doing, and yeah, what would the general advice be?
Well, first of all, make sure you're doing it for the right reasons, right? This is your dream. It's not your parents, your grandparents, your siblings, your teachers, your coaches. It's your dream, because it's going to get hard. It's going to get tough. Yeah. You're going to hear no way more than you hear yes from university coaches. So you have to make sure this is your dream. Number one, right off the bat. Otherwise, it ain't going to go too well.
Yeah.
What's that?
I couldn't agree more.
Yep. So that's number one for sure. And beyond that, it's, make sure you're like the baseline, the foundation. You have to have skill. You got to be talented enough. You got to be playing on a competitive team where you're going to get exposure. You're going to get seen. Formatting emails. It's picking up the phone and calling. It's going on social media and stalking them. The coaches, the teams. Maybe that's the wrong word to use, but, actually learn about these programs, the coaches. What are they posting? Does it look like something that you want to see? Take that with a grain of salt. Social media, I get it. It's colored glass, rose glass cover, whatever that expression is. I'm horrible with expressions, so you know what I mean. But it's, you got to do your research too. You really have to know what you want to get out of that experience for those 4 years, academically, athletically, and socially. So really, before you even get into contacting and communicating with coaches, you got to get crystal clear on what it is that you want, right? Because then you won't settle, right? Did I answer the question?
That did. That's perfect. What girls should do, first of all, do it for yourself. That's probably the biggest thing. Know why you're playing, like that, because you love the game, not because your parents are forcing you to, or for whatever other reason. That's the biggest one. And second, just basically doing your research. I think it's so important to do your research, to talk to experts, to see, what programs are losing a bunch of seniors, the year that you're supposed to go in, and all that kind of stuff. Doing that research is so important. So I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah. And even with COVID now too, it's roster size is huge, right? So it's even depending on where you're at, if you're grade 11, grade 12, there's no communication happening. Do you do a post-grad year?
Yeah, that's true.
It's something you really have to think about. And again, if you're doing it for, I'm going to say the right reasons, meaning you do want to play in university or college, then it's worth exploring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Can you talk a bit more about that, the post-grad year? I don't think many people really, I'm sure it's intuitive what it is, but a lot of people probably haven't thought of that. So could you elaborate on it a little bit more?
Yeah. So, depending where you are, what's available, it's literally just taking an extra year, gap year, post-grad year, whatever you want to call it, playing with a youth team, travel team for that extra year. Maybe you even start part-time university courses that you can then transfer in once you actually go to university, right? So you're not just sitting at home and just going to practice in games, you're actively doing something academically as well to stay on top of that. But yeah, you essentially just take an extra year. Who doesn't want to play for an extra year too, right? And you just get bumped from, so what is it, 2022? So you're now in the 2023 recruiting class, right? But I say that, but I'm going to put a little asterisk beside that whole comment and say, if a college coach if you haven't been talking with a college university coach and they haven't suggested or said, hey, we can't take you in 2022, but we can take you in 2023. Okay, that's one thing. Then yeah, you explore that, you do that, you verbally commit for that grad year. But if there's nothing in the works, just be cautious, right? You got to still do the work to get the communication going with those university coaches, right? Like you can't just sit back and say, oh, I hope they find me. Yeah. Please find me, right? No, you still have to do the work. You have to put yourself out there. You got to get the exposure, the camps, the showcases, all that stuff.
Yeah, no, I totally agree for sure. Don't just sit back, take a post grad year just to take a post grad year. You gotta be almost like you gotta be talking to college coaches. There has to be like conversations where they suggest it, or if not, like at least actively talking to coaches, that's what makes
Exactly.
sense for sure. So how early should girls, start contacting coaches, start putting their names out there? How early does the process typically start?
Depends. I mean, I always say, hey, why not start in grade 9?
Yeah.
And there's two parts to that why I say that. One, NCAA D1 coaches can't communicate with you until June 15th of your grade 10, your sophomore year. So they're not going to write back to you. If they do, it's a general, hey, we can't talk to you due to NCAA rules, fill this questionnaire. Okay, that's it. But it doesn't mean that you can't put your name in their inbox, right? Don't be annoying about it. Don't overdo it. There's kind of a fine art to that as well, but there's no harm in starting early. And I think that's what we kind of we suggest, we recommend when we work with players and families is start in grade 9. At the end of our 8-week course, you're going to know everything you need to do. Can you do it all in grade 9? No. Some of it you got to wait for. Maybe it's ACT, SAT tests. Who knows what NCAA clearinghouse, whatever it may be, if we're talking the US side. But I just believe that if you have the knowledge, you've got the power now, right? And hopefully it alleviates the stress that your parents are feeling about this whole process, right? If you start in grade 11, okay, it still works. It still happens. Like we've worked with players even in grade 12 that have gone on to play, but were they stressed the 3 years previously? Yeah, they were, right? So I'd say start in grade 9. Why not? And then emails again, like you're probably not going to get a verbal commitment if it's NCAA D1 till at least June 15th onward. And then, U Sport, NCAA D3, ACHA, it's going to be more grade 11, probably 12.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, but starting early, do at least, doing your research, start contacting coaches, get that experience, start talking to experts. The earlier you start, the more experience you get, the less stress you're going to get over time. If you start right in grade 12, it can be done, but you're just putting yourself at a disadvantage, So I think I completely agree. Starting early is the way to go.
Well, I think we're all stressed enough too with COVID these last 2 years. So I think any way we can alleviate stress in our lives, I highly recommend doing it.
Why add to the stress? Just do yourself a favor, start early. Exactly. All right. So I kind of want to shift gears here a little bit. I want to talk a bit about your playing career here. So for all you viewers out there, Jaclyn here has had an amazing hockey career. And I just want to commend you for it. You had a really, really good hockey career, and I want to ask you, like, what do you think are the things that you did on and off the ice that made you successful?
Off the ice, mindset. Worked a lot on that. What's that?
Can you elaborate on the mindset part?
Yeah. And I don't know that I was consciously doing it. I didn't have like a mindset coach or a sports psychologist or anything like that, but it was always, rebounding after a bad shift, not letting myself go down that negative spiral too long or too quickly. Like, hey, have a ritual in place to get over it, move on. Right.
Do you have a ritual? Like, did you have certain things that you did? Like, I'd love to hear it if you did.
So it's funny. So one of our mindset, I will answer that, but I have a little story before that. One of our mindset coaches is Brianna Decker. Mm-hmm. So she's obviously prepping for the Olympics right now, but one of what she does, and it'll be interesting if like anybody watching the Olympics, if they zoom in on decks, maybe after a bad shift, she takes a swig of water and just like slides herself down the bench, like just to like reset. Like that's her thing. Like that's her, like, got to go do that, done. Right. Excuse me. For me, it was just having affirmations in my head. Like everything's working out for me. It's okay. We're going to get it back next shift. I'm going to get it back next shift. We're going to win this game. Hockey's a game of mistakes. I made a mistake. Let's go make someone else make a mistake. It's just like little things to just kind of ground you and put you back inside your body instead of inside your head. Mm-hmm. Like, hey, we got this. Right. And that's, hey, if you got good teammates like that can help you as well. Great. And that's what makes a good teammate too, is picking your teammates up when they're down. Yeah. Right. So off the ice mindset was huge. And as well as just working on off ice skills. I was always out shooting pucks in my driveway. Garage door will prove it. Parents had to replace that between my brother and I, but always working on skills, stick handling in the basement, training, weightlifting, all that stuff. Like I would always just go with my brother and do what he did. And he was a year and a half older than me. And I was like, you're trying to kill me. What are you doing? But so yeah, mindset, off ice skill, always trying to improve. On the ice, I never wanted anybody to work harder than me. I always wanted to be the hardest worker on the ice. My skating, average. Hockey Canada cut me because my skating was average. It needed to be above average, right? So I learned how to play the game. Obviously, I tried to work on my skating. I was doing that, but I worked on other areas of my game to kind of overcompensate for that, right? So it was just always me showing up, working harder than anybody else on my team. And I would outskate people that I shouldn't be just because I worked hard. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to be the most talented at all. But if you're not the hardest worker, you're going to get beat out. You're going to get cut from teams. You're not going to get ice time. It shows. Coaches see that stuff, right? That's things I would look for as a coach then. Like what are you doing on the ice, off the ice? Are you working hard? Are you doing what you're supposed to? Are you doing more than what you're supposed to?
Yeah.
How bad do you actually want this? And that was always it for me. Is I wanted it. I had a goal from when I was a little kid and I never took my eyes off it. So I just worked harder than everybody.
There's a lot to unpack there. And you can just see as you're talking, your mind, you can just see the mindset, the just work harder than every single person out there on and off the ice. And that's what makes you successful, because, and it's a common theme. Each person I interview, the work ethic, it's one of the things that everyone has in common. The high achievers, they all work very hard and they all have that compete, to outcompete. Let's say someone's a little bit faster than you, like a bit better skater. Like you said, you work hard to outcompete them, So that's a huge takeaway in my mind. And yeah, anyone who's ever been successful is a hard worker. There's no way around it for sure.
Yep. And just in case anyone's listening and hearing it differently than what I'm saying, I just want to clarify, it doesn't mean that you're outside working out for 5 hours every single day, right? Because then there's burnout on the tail end of that, right? It's working hard, but working smart while you're working hard.
Can you elaborate more on that? Not to prevent burnout and all those things.
Yeah, no, it's like setting goals. Like, hey, I'm going to shoot 100 pucks a day. I'm going to stick handle for 15 minutes, 10 minutes, putting those little goals in place and then listening to your body. Hey, what can I handle? How's my mental state when I'm doing all of this? Right. So I wasn't shooting pucks for 5 hours every day, 4 hours every day. I just go out and shoot a bunch of pucks. And then when I felt good or I had executed what I was trying to do, all right, go in, take a shower, have some food. If I felt like going out again later, great. If not, okay. Some days you're going to feel better than others. So you have to listen to your body too. Otherwise you will burn out mentally and physically. For sure.
I totally agree. And I think my philosophy is consistent hard work over time, like like 100 pucks a day, let's say, to improve your shot. If that's your goal, shoot 100 pucks a day. Don't shoot 1,000 pucks in one day, then not practice for 2 weeks, and then shoot another 2,000. That's not the key.
Not going to work.
Little steps every single day. That's what really makes the progress in my mind.
100% agree with that. Little things every day. And there's going to be days you don't feel like doing anything, and that's okay, but go do something.
For sure. What are the kind of the physical things that you prioritize? Like, did you prioritize food, like sleep and all those things to make sure that you didn't burn out physically?
I wish I had a better understanding of nutrition when I was playing. And it's no fault of anybody's, I just didn't know. It wasn't as talked about then either. So even in college, it was, okay, you're at the dining hall. What are you going to pick? What are you going to choose?
Yeah,
right. So
that's an issue of itself too, the dining hall.
yeah. I see the ice cream over there. That's my Achilles heel right there.
Yeah.
I wish it was more nutrition. Obviously I was still a decent player, so it didn't kill me, but I always look back and think, how much better could I have been if my nutrition was on point, And then, once you're in college, like everything's mapped out for you. So, like you wake up, go to class, maybe you go lift before practice or after practice, you got study hall, this, that, and the other. So it was basically a roadmap to be successful already kind of built for me. So I kind of now look at it more like, okay, what else could I have done to be better that I can now help others understand? And while I know I worked on mindset and I did it subconsciously, now that I understand it even better now, I'm like, that's a huge focus for us with the players we work. Is huge focus. Because
mindset or the off-ice stuff?
Mindset.
Yeah.
We don't cover anything until we help build them a bulletproof mindset. We don't even tell them how to write emails, how to get on a phone call, list of schools, nothing. We don't do anything until we at least put the foundation in place of what it takes, one, to be a collegiate student athlete, but then two, how to overcome those challenges, those obstacles that are going to come up, not only in the recruiting process, but your life.
So how do you do it? What are if you
Oh,
can,
that's
if
a
you
whole
can
other
share.
podcast,
I
my
know,
friend.
I know it's a whole. I know I'm diving into a can of worms here, but maybe
Yep.
like maybe three core principles or anything around those lines that you can kind of share, like that people can just at least get started in the right direction in terms of mindset.
As far as how to do it,
Yeah, yeah.
yep. I hire people that know more than me. That's what I do. Honestly, that's number one for me is I have two mindset coaches on staff
Yeah.
because that's their area of expertise. One's an Olympian, so she's the cream of the crop, right? So she knows what it takes. And then Barb Egan is our other one, and she's a certified clinical counselor specializing in sports psychology. So I surround myself with people who know more than I do. And then just like hockey, you come together, you make a great team.
Yeah.
But as far as working on mindset, it's being aware. It's being aware of what's going on in here throughout the day. And if you consciously try and think about how you're feeling and what you're thinking, I guarantee you there's going to be a correlation. If you feel like crap, I bet you it's because you're not talking very nicely to yourself. And that's it, right? So if you can switch that, turn it off, switch it off essentially, and replace it with a positive thought, your mood will increase. And if it can't be a positive thought, physically do something, get up and move, dance, put music on, go for a walk, go out in nature.
Yeah.
Like it sounds maybe corny or kind of weird, but I guarantee you, if you're feeling down and you get up, put music on and dance, go for a walk, work out, go for a jog, call a friend who makes you laugh, do something you enjoy, your mood will switch. You'll be on a completely different frequency. That's probably the biggest thing I can tell you, just in a nutshell.
Yeah, and it's the easiest thing. And I know when you're feeling down on yourself, it's the last thing you want to do. You want to just kind of sit there in negative town and self-pity. But honestly, just getting up, just breaking that state, just getting up, moving, doing like 15 jumping jacks, whatever it is, going for a walk, calling a friend, like that, just it makes you feel so much better. And it's the easiest way to do it. So I totally agree with that. I also like your other point too, where, if you're noticing, like you got to be aware, right? But if you're noticing those negative thoughts in your head, switching it to a positive thought. Now, maybe not, it can't be delusional either. Like in my opinion, I've tried like, oh my God, like when I'm feeling terrible, like, oh my God, I'm amazing. All that. It has to be like grounded. It has to be realistic, but there's a way to kind of reframe the thoughts to start heading in that more positive direction. Does that kind of make sense?
It does. And like the thing I said earlier too, was like positive affirmations. What do I say to myself when I'm down, bad shift, whatever? Everything's always working out for me, but I believe it now.
Yeah.
Right. Like I used to say it just to say it to get me out of it. But now I believe it because over time you will feel better. You will get better and you will realize that everything actually worked out as it was supposed to. Right. I didn't get into my dream schools. I went to, I think UConn was 4th or 5th on my list, and it was awesome. Right. Like, and it worked out. Was I bummed during the time that it didn't with the other schools? Yeah, but it worked out. And then it just snowballed to every other opportunity I got in my playing and coaching career. Yeah. So you have to believe that everything is always working out for you.
Yeah, for sure. And I honestly, it kind of is. It sounds like when you're young, you don't kind of see it, but I know that as you get older, you're like, oh my God, like those like side turns, the adversity I faced there, at first you don't see it. It's very difficult to go through, but you see why like years after, and sometimes it happens quick. You can see why, but sometimes it takes years. It takes a lot of time to see, why it kind of all pieces together and works out the right way. But it's really interesting when you look back at it.
Yeah. Patience.
Kind of, I guess it's a little bit related, but a little bit different too. So let's say you are going through a hard moment. Okay. I know mindset's big, but how do you deal with that adversity? Like what were your specific strategies for dealing with adversity, going through hard things? How did you kind of come out out the other side?
I think it gets back to what we touched on a bit earlier with knowing why you're doing what you're doing. When you know you have a purpose, when you wake up and all you can think about is playing hockey, getting an education, going to university, like it excites you, it makes you come alive, and you just have this like feeling. It's an emotion, it's a feeling. It's regardless of what anybody says to me, I know that I'm destined to go do this. When you have that amount of belief in your dream, in how you feel, then it makes the challenges and the obstacles and the setbacks sting a little bit less. As long as, again, you can get back to, hey, why am I doing this? I love hockey. I want to get an education. I want to play. I just want to keep playing. And if you can have, again, that level of belief in yourself, your abilities, and you don't lose that feeling. I don't know how else to describe it other than a feeling. Like intuitively, you just know that this is part of your destiny. It's part of your path. Then you're going to keep pushing through, right? I think everybody's been cut from a team at some point. And if you haven't, okay, great. But if you have, do you quit hockey or do you use that as motivation to get better and prove them wrong, right? Prove yourself right. Getting to understand and know your why. Yeah. Why is this important to you? And if it's not, trust me, you won't do it. You'll find excuses or you'll stop playing or whatever it may be. And not even hockey, with life, like anything. Like, do you not have times where like a buddy's like, hey, let's go hang out or let's go grab dinner. And you're like, oh, I really don't want to. But then you go anyways. And you're like, I wish I stayed home. Like it's trusting your gut, trusting your intuition. And sometimes it works out and it's fun. Don't get me wrong. But I guess it's learning to say no when it's not aligning with your end goal.
Yeah, for sure. There's a couple of things I want to touch on. So the first thing is, I think knowing why and trust, like you said, it's a deep feeling. Like you know it. Everybody like can tap into it. Everybody knows it. If you're truly passionate about something, you'll have that feeling. And that oftentimes, if you can tap into that, that'll push you through the hardship 100%. And oftentimes for me, that was the biggest thing, just knowing like if I got cut from a team or if I got scratched, wasn't playing a lot, anything like that. If I was struggling, like I always circle back to why am I doing this? And I always had to have a clear answer, because if I didn't, then I was in trouble. But exactly. When I did, that's when I could just push through and then I'd be able to come out on the other side. So that I think is the biggest way to go through adversity. So I totally agree. And so the second kind of notion I want to talk about here is how do you, like, it's kind of related, but how do you manage your time in college? How do you say no to opportunities or fun nights or whatever, when you know there's other things you should do? Because I know in college hockey, like, being a student athlete, like playing hockey is a full-time job usually, especially at the NCAA D1 level, but NCAA D3 as well, and U Sports as well. And school, like that takes so much of your time too. So how do you kind of manage both and still having a life and still enjoying yourself in college as well?
Yeah, well, like you said, it literally is a full-time job. And again, depending what level you're playing at, it still is going to require a lot of your time, right? So it's D1, like you said, it's a job, but it's an amazing job.
Yeah.
So it gets back to, I mean, like I'm thinking about my time in college. I'm like, everything was laid out, like from classes, class times, okay, going to class and you got 15 minutes to grab something and get to the rink and, practice games, whatever it may be. Like there really wasn't a lot of downtime. So you had to basically put yourself first and make yourself a priority if you needed that social interaction with maybe not your teammates, or maybe you wanted to hang out with other athletes or non-athletes. You consciously had to literally schedule it into your calendar. And again, every team's different as far as having a night out. But, take advantage of the time that you do. You can go out and be with teammates, be with friends, or maybe you have a weekend with no games and you've got an early Saturday morning practice and that's it for the weekend and you live close by. Go home if you want to go home and see your family, and bring a teammate if they want to leave too. So it's working it in and around. But time management is, I feel like you learn by doing it. You know what I mean? Like you when you get thrown in, you have no other option other than to figure it out.
That's it.
Because if you don't, and you're not going to classes or you're skipping classes or whatever, now your grades are bad. Now you're on academic probation. Oh, next step is you're getting kicked out of school.
Yeah.
Right. So it's got to be a priority to get that, the academics, the hockey first and foremost. And then, the social unfortunately comes last. But at the same time, at least from my experience, my teammates, like we all loved hanging out with each other anyway. So like when we were on the ice or working out or walking to and from, like it was our social time as well.
Yeah, for sure. No, I agree. I think you have to have your priorities for sure. Obviously, taking care of yourself first and foremost, I think should be priority number one, so like obviously exercise comes with hockey, but like, good nutrition, if you can, good sleep, prioritizing, feeling good about yourself, good mindset, all that. And then, obviously school, comes second for sure. Hockey comes third. A lot of people want to have hockey first, but school is incredibly important, so definitely prioritize the academics, prioritize the hockey, and then the social interactions. And they're important. It's fun to go out and have some fun, a night out with friends, anything like that. And I'm totally for it, as long as you have the other things, taken care of.
Exactly.
And I think, like strategies that I kind of use is anytime I had free time, like I wouldn't waste time. I would just do, if I had schoolwork I had to do, I'd get it done, just get it done. Because you're kind of forced to, because you have such limited time, that if you do have a little bit of free time, you don't waste it. You don't scroll Instagram for like an hour or whatever. You just, well, sometimes we do, but you try not to, you try to not waste it, get it done. And then after you have that free time to be social and go hang out with friends and all that. So that's kind of the approach I would take.
You just nailed something that I completely forgot about, because social media, like it's so different now from like, I graduated in 2008. So, oh gosh, Facebook was just coming out.
Yeah.
Facebook was just new when I was in university. I think we had like AOL, Instant Messenger, and like stuff like that, but it's so different now. And that, like what you just said, is something that, student athletes have to be aware of, is how much time you do spend on your phone scrolling through. Yeah, it's fun. I get it. You can be an influencer, you can do other things. I'm not saying don't do it, but to your point, you've got to fit in what you can with the time you're being given.
Yeah, no, I agree, because it's easy to get stuck in the rabbit hole of social media now. And the trick I kind of use is just put like if I do want to go on it, maybe put like a 15-minute timer on my phone, then I go on it, don't think about it. And then once it goes, like I know it's done, then move on to something else. Doesn't always work out that way, but I try to do it, but it's it has to be done, because as a student athlete, you're so busy, you have to kind of take those measures, or else you find yourself wasting time. Then it's easy to start drowning because there's so much to do.
Well, that's a great advice, a timer. I didn't even think of that, but it's like I use the sleep mode on my phone now at nighttime, so like nothing goes off. I'm like, I need sleep, right?
Yeah. For sure. Now, you played a little bit of pro hockey too. So can you describe that experience a little bit? How is it different from college hockey?
So in Switzerland, that was so fun. The top teams, it was comparable to playing NCAA hockey. But then, there's some middle of the pack lower teams where it was blowout games, right? So it was a wide range. Depending where you're playing, it varies, right? So I've got former players that I coached at UConn that are playing over in China. Some have gone to Austria, Germany, Finland. Every league is so different, but at the end of the day, like you're literally living a dream. You're playing hockey in a foreign country. I was fortunate enough when I played, it was 2010 and 11 I think it was during the 2010 Olympics, because I had teammates that were on the Swiss Olympic team. So when they went over to Vancouver for 2010, we had a whole month where we didn't have games. We practiced here and there, but half our team's gone. And I just traveled. I think I hit up 8 or 9 different countries, because it's easy when you're in Europe, right? Jump on a train, quick flight to London, whatever it may be. My goal was always to play for Hockey Canada. Well, before that, I wanted to play with Jaromir Jagr and play in the NHL. But I just wanted to be paid to play, right? And got cut from Hockey Canada, didn't make it to the NHL, but I got paid to play in Switzerland, right? So I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Like, you're literally paying me to play the game that I love.
Yeah.
How cool is that? Right. And then playing in the CWHL, I mean, obviously that league I was playing with the Boston Blades at the time. So it was like Kelly Stack, Angela Ruggiero, Molly Schaus was our goalie, Erica Lawler. There was all these US Olympians, Casey Bellamy. And I was like, whoa, I went from like a first line center, power play, penalty kill, like every minute I got ice time, to being like a third liner, and rightfully so. I mean, they were Olympians in front of me, right? They're good, but it was such a cool experience to truly be playing professionally with the best people, the best players. It was just, I don't even know how to explain it. I get like, clearly I'm just smiling, like thinking about it. It was a really cool experience.
When you're surrounded by greatness like that, it's so inspiring, it kind of motivates you to be better every day, because like you said, you went from being a first line center, everything power play, PK, to a third liner. How did that motivate you? Like, did that like drive something inside you to try and, be better and outcompete them and try to
100%. I loved it. I loved the challenge. I'm like, okay, I got to beat Angela Ruggiero on a one-on-one. I don't think it ever happened, but I was like, I'm going to get you one day. It's going to happen, Ange. But it was mentally tough though. Like from playing top minutes to, maybe a couple of shifts a period. Yeah. And then again, you work your way up, you go down, but that experience actually, I believe, helped me become a better coach.
Why?
Because I understood the mindset of a third, fourth liner. I had never had that experience before.
Yeah, because you're probably like the top dog, right? The first liner almost your entire career up until then.
Yeah,
I get it.
Yeah. So it was, and again, like everything happens for a reason. Like things are always working out for me. Like that experience, well, I didn't get to play as much. It did help me, be a better coach, empathize more with those third, fourth line players, help them more on the ice, off the ice. What more could you be doing? Let's go out and do extra skill sessions. It was a humbling experience for sure, but so grateful for it. Yeah. So grateful for it, because I think it allowed me to be a better coach.
It's amazing how, but you have an amazing mindset. I just want to tell you off the bat, because it's just something that's challenging. You reframe it in a way where it serves you like later down the road, and that's, if people can just get that skill, like when you're going through hardship, be able to reframe and saying, hey, this is tough right now, but it's going to serve me down the road. It's going to help me in this way or that way. Like you say, you can empathize with third and fourth liners better now that you've went through that experience. It's so powerful if you can do that. So I think that's awesome that you have that kind of mindset.
Thank you. It's taken a lot of practice, just like anything. You don't become a great hockey player overnight. It's repetition. It's constantly working on it. And that's a hard thing that I don't think most people do is work on the mindset piece and really be aware of what you're thinking and how you're feeling and how can I change that?
For sure. So it's kind of segueing from mindset here. It's very related. I kind of want to touch on leadership here. So, I think I can just tell you're a great leader yourself, but I know you've played like with some great players that are probably great leaders as well. Can you just touch on, what do you think makes a leader? We can just start there, I guess.
You lead by example, number one. Mm-hmm. And I think even like I'm thinking as a player, as a coach, as a business owner, I never asked anybody to do something that I wouldn't do. And I mean, okay, talking business, accountant, all that stuff. Yeah, you just do it. I'll try and learn it and understand it, and do my part. But I think great leaders lead by example. Number one, empathy. That actually might be number one. But empathy, I think, is such an undervalued value. If a leader can empathize and put themselves in their players, their teammates' shoes, and realize that they're behaving, acting this way, probably for something that we don't even know is going on, whether it be at home, personally, who knows, right? It's not judging somebody before you know the full story. Being able to literally put yourselves in their shoes, and even if they won't let you in to explain what's going on, it's just be compassionate, show empathy. I don't even know how else to say it. Just, I think we're in a time now where that is going to be what makes a great coach, a great leader, because it's not the black and white, hard-nosed, get on the line, listen to me. Like there's actual conversations going on. From what I experienced and talking with other college coaches as well, is there's more dialogue, there's more open conversations with coaches and players. And I believe that those teams who are successful have that coach-player relationship where they'll listen. Obviously, they get the final say. But yeah, I think empathy is a huge thing. And a big one just for any student athlete is do the right thing. Always do the right thing, right? Like if you want to be a good leader, do the right thing. If there's that little voice in the back of your head, you're like, I don't know if this is a good idea. Probably isn't. And remove yourself from the situation. Right? There's horror stories of people posting on social media of inappropriate things or illegal things, and scholarships get taken away, roster spots get taken away. Right. And I understand the peer pressure of, wanting to fit in, wanting to feel included. But again, if your end goal is to get to that next level, you've got to always do the right thing.
Yeah, I had great stuff. A lot to unpack there too, but I think leading by example and doing the right thing, I guess they're kind of correlated. I think leaders who lead by example, in my opinion, there's place for multiple kind of leaders, but I think leading by example is the most powerful way to do it. Like there's leaders that talk a lot, that have a strong voice, and there's a place for that. But I think that leading by example is the best way to do it because it inspires people to follow you and you influence people to do those same things that are going to benefit them. So I think leading by example, huge. But empathy too, and that's not talked about that much for leadership, but empathy and compassion and caring about your teammates is so important, because if they know that you're going to go to bat for them, that you have their back, that you care about them, they're going to want to do the same for you. And the team just comes together. I feel like the best teams have that. And the really skilled teams that don't have that, they kind of fall apart when adversity hits, so I think having that empathy is so important. So I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. One other thing is being intrinsically motivated as well.
Yes.
Great leaders they'll always do it. They'll find a way. They don't need to be rewarded with money, a trophy, or anything like that. It's I'm doing it because this is what I want.
Yeah.
I'm intrinsically motivated.
I couldn't agree more. There's nothing more I can add on that. It's true. Great point.
Period. The end.
That's it. But before we end, I have one more question for you. So
of course,
what was your advice for a young girl, like last piece of advice that you have for young girls out there going through the process that want to play college and even potentially pro hockey one day?
Besides all the little nuggets I said throughout this whole thing, I guess something different would be to surround yourself with like-minded people. So what I mean by that is whenever anybody strikes out to do something great, like whoever's listening to this, you want to play university hockey, college hockey, cool. Some people may say that's too big of a goal. You're never going to make it. You're going to get hurt. You're going to go there and get cut, whatever it may be. You can't have that in your inner circle. You can't. You've got to surround yourself with like-minded people. And if you do have those people chirping in your ear, you've got to be able to tune them out and find your group that believe in you, which first you have to believe in yourself, but find others that will support that, and not let those other negative voices, negative people tear you down, number one, but then also not allow you to fulfill that dream.
Yeah.
Right. You can't let their fears become yours. Maybe they're afraid to fail or something in their life, but they're just projecting that onto you.
That's usually what happens. That's usually what happens.
It's all projection.
Yeah.
Someone's losing it on you. Something's going on in their life and they're just taking it out on you and projecting it on you for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just, you've got to find that group, that niche of people that support you.
Yeah. I think the saying, yeah, I agree. I think the saying that you're the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with the most is such a true saying. It's a cliche, but it's true. Whoever you surround yourself with, you're going to be the average. So if you surround yourself with people with great mindsets that have great goals, you're going to become that, or the chances are much more likely than if you surround yourself with the opposite type of people.
Yeah. You nailed it. Cliches. They're so true. Right? You nailed, I never understood them until you have an experience where you're like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. Like Nike, just do it. What a great slogan. Literally, just do it.
Yeah.
Stop questioning it. Like whatever. I'm horrible with cliches and sayings, like I told you earlier here, but it's so true.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So I think, that's a great last piece of advice. I think it's a great spot to end on. I have a ton more questions I'd love to ask you, but I guess we're running out of time here. So on that note, thanks so much for coming on. I thought you have an amazing mindset. I just want to commend you for that. We can all really tell just by the whole interview here. And I really appreciate the work you do for young female players out there. So I just want to let you know that. Thank you for your time. And it's been a pleasure.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on here. I'm happy to come back again whenever you want. And thank you guys for doing what you do as well. Like, we're in the same space, but I love that we can support each other, help each other. And ultimately the end goal is to help those young female hockey players.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care.
All right, guys, that is a wrap for the video. Hopefully, I feel like I got a ton of value out of this. Hopefully you guys did the same too. If you got value out of this video, if you like this content here, destroy that like button if you haven't already. It helps the channel out a ton. It helps other people get, this content. It helps reach more people. If you just take a quick second to smash that like button, it's completely free. So go for it if you can. If you're new here and if you enjoy this kind of content, consider hitting that subscribe button and notification bell so you never miss content like this moving forward. Also too, if you had any questions, anything you want to talk to us about throughout the video, feel free to drop a comment down below or send us an email at info@ahadvising.com and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. All right, guys, we hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks so much for watching and we'll catch you on that next one.